Wonderful.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Rebellious Wellness Lifestyle. This beautiful smiling woman to my left, depending on what side you're on, is Elizabeth McGann. And she's somebody that I've been following on social media. She's got a great, informative Instagram feed. And we're going to talk about holistic weight release, about GLP-1s. She, Elizabeth, is a holistic nutritionist and a life coach. And she's the founder of the Holistic GLP-1 Method, and she has a podcast of the same name, which constantly ranks as a #1 show in Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So I think you should check it out. It's really fun. So Elizabeth, welcome, and thank you so much for being here.
It's a pleasure, Greg. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So I want you to first set the listeners a context of your way of helping women with weight
Yeah,
loss.
yeah. Great question. I'll just take you back about why I got into it. So
Okay.
I really struggled. I was a fat kid, and I use that term with love. And it was difficult growing up as a heavier child.
Mhm.
My parents were physicians, and father was a heart surgeon, mother was a nurse, and they did their best to help me. And it just looked like a lot of me gaining weight and being
Mhm.
told that I would be struggling with my weight my whole life.
Mm.
And so it really set me on a path uh, of trying to figure it out for myself. And in figuring it out for myself and really struggling and shame, all of the things, it was really hard to
Mm.
crack the code.
Mm.
I have been committed to helping other people do the same. And I think a holistic approach is the best approach.
So was there a trigger event that had you say, this is how I'm going to solve this for me? Or was it just reading and studying in life that brought you to a place where you could feel good about your body?
Like you, Greg, and it was fun to get to know you a little bit before we started rolling here. I'm a lifelong student. I'm a nerd. I love to research. And I was my first client.
Mm.
And where I started to really understand, call it like getting the owner's operating manual for myself, was after many years. It was mostly late teens, early college, where I'd been really struggling. It was like 50 pounds heavier than I am now at 14. By the time I got more active in my research, when I figured out how managing my metabolism through a lower carbohydrate, low glycemic diet, they weren't really talking about keto the way we are now, but there was Atkins and
Yeah,
I
South Beach.
all of that. When I tried that on for size, I noticed that my body responded when I kept carbohydrates at the right amount for me, when I ate the right amount of protein, when I exercised, when I did all the things,
Hmm.
it worked.
Yeah.
And what's interesting when you said that one piece, it more came into focus recently with GLP-1s, because what are GLP-1s? But they really help get your metabolism in the right range. And you can do that all naturally.
Hmm. Yes. And we are kindred. We talked about that a minute ago. When I hit perimenopause, and I was also a fat kid, my mother used to walk behind me. We had a uniform for school where we wore knee socks. And if she was behind me, she'd say, your legs were definitely not made for knee socks until you lose weight. And I would be like, okay, let's just set me up for failure right away. She meant
Oh,
well. But anyway,
oh,
I,
that's awful. I'm so sorry.
that's
It's
okay.
like your mom was like hazing you. Like,
And she wanted the best for me, like your parents. And
sure.
being overweight was not in that circle of being okay. Anyway, set me up for some disordered eating and some love of speed. There was a speed phase for a while because
Sure.
diet pills, they were great. Anyway,
Benfin.
many years later, at perimenopause, I don't know what turned me on to the lower carbohydrate thing, but it suddenly made sense and it really transformed my body, but also how I felt. My energy level was really much better. And as I said earlier, I was writing a lot during these years when I was doing my life and health coaching. And people were writing me going, oh my God, but you can never have bread again. And there was a phase where I felt like I could never have bread again, but I didn't never have bread, right? I would just try to avoid certain things. So I had to bring all of that like into balance. Rather than never eating carrots and potatoes, I had to understand that they're part of the food that is holistically good for us. So anyway, we had a similar awakening about that. And I never wanted to do keto, but I know that it can be very helpful for some people. It's just hard to stay on for many people. Do you find
And
that
it's
with your
just
clients?
It's misunderstood, the word keto. It basically has been hijacked by the food industry. Ketogenic originally was a diet for epilepsy, and
Hmm.
you ate very specifically. You could measure the ketones in urine or a blood test. It was meant something very specific, and you could quantify it. It's usually like 20 net carbs and under. And you could find your what. That said, you don't need to be deep into ketosis or even in ketosis to benefit from the metabolic fat burning range you get into by just finding the right amount of carbohydrates without going to the weeds about that. But everything that breaks down to glucose throughout the day in your bloodstream. And it
Hmm.
works. That works really well. But
Hmm.
that's not the only piece. And that's actually the least interesting piece as far as
Yeah.
I'm concerned.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's talk about the idea of holistic. What does that mean to you? I know it's a body, mind, soul, spirit, I might say, thing, but what does that translate into when you are working with somebody?
Yeah. If your listeners ever have struggled with a weight journey, there's a lot of emotion that comes with it. And often the people that have struggled with the weight journey, they've read all the books, they've tried them all, and they would probably teach a course in the mechanics of weight loss. It's not rocket science.
Yeah.
There's nuances to it, and there are best practices. That said, if if there's a template even for how to lose weight, why do so many people fail?
Mm.
And so each person has a unique story. It could be a slightly emotional addiction, food addiction, relationship. It could be trauma. It could be a lot of things. It could just be a mental block. There's a lot. And so I find it's fun and interesting for the person to realize that it's really not about the weight. So what is it really about? And for every person, it's a little different.
And you said you occasionally have men clients.
Yeah.
I occasionally had a male client, and that was the toughest nut to crack was the feeling part, right? The what else is it about the no, it's just the power. I just need to lose my gut. But truly, when they would do the work and get there, there would be like this little glimmer of light for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Men have it easier for whatever reason.
They say 40% more muscle has something to do with it.
I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah. So, how in this world of GLP-1 mania, I'm going to say, I'm hoping because you are so steeped in the science of it that you can help the listeners, A, feel no shame if they want to get on it, and two, if you can give us some idea of what is a best practice, what's a safe way to get this? What if our insurance doesn't want to pay and doctors are saying you shouldn't go to a compounding? There's so many questions for women that might want to try these drugs that have helped a lot of people, but we need some help here from you.
Yeah, it's a great question. And I could talk a lot and a long time about it. So why don't I just give one or two pearls that I think most people are doing it wrong, dosed way too high, and therefore you have all the side effects and all the nasty things that I think people should be very concerned about. It's dangerous. I think the way most people are doing it is dangerous. And I think eventually everyone will understand this more. It may just take some time, but the best practices of nutrition still apply in the GLP-1 world. So what I tell people is figure out how to lose the first 5 to 10 pounds completely on your own. Really getting curious about low glycemic diets, getting on an app like MyFitnessPal and figuring out what is a lower carbohydrate diet that works for me that'll help me lose weight. If you can figure that out, you don't need to be on the highest doses because the higher doses, I believe, based on all the people I've worked with, are mitigating a bad diet. If there's too much glucose, there's too much carbohydrate in the diet, you're going to need a higher dose.
Mhm.
And one little note, if you are already a diabetic, you probably will need a higher dose than a microdose.
Mm.
That said, even diabetics over time can reverse their condition or put it in remission and get into a lower A1C, just a better range. And then they could probably also take a lower dose. But my
Mhm.
first tip would be get really curious about how to lose your first 5 to 10 pounds on your own. Therefore, you don't really need the peptide. But the
Right.
peptide can come in and actually just give you the staying power,
Mm.
give you that extra leg up, that support that allows you to get to the finish line so you're not yo-yoing. Most people have a hard time being consistent, and I feel like the peptide can really help with consistency.
Yeah, I've heard a few women say that it stops the food noise. Like they
Yeah.
used to always be thinking about what they could eat next or not eat, and this got rid of that.
Yeah. And so does a very low carb diet, which is interesting. Like we want to give all the credit, like food noise. It ended my food noise. But food noise really is just overeating, overly processed foods filled with sugar that spike your glucose all day long. If I go and eat a chocolate chip cookie for breakfast or a bagel, which is basically the same thing,
Yeah.
or waffles with syrup, guess what? I'm going to be thinking about food the rest of the day because I spiked my glucose and I'm just looking for the next hit of sugar. And that's food noise. That makes sense. If you
Yeah.
regulate your metabolism, you get it in that nice even range, which you could measure in a CGM, which I think are amazing, or you can just track it in an app and follow what it tells you to do. You'll notice you're like, huh, I just went 6 hours without thinking about food.
Yeah.
And that's without a GLP-1. But
Right.
yes, a GLP-1 will show you that. It will give you almost like what's interesting, and this is one of the things I've been thinking about lately, is this. So if someone wanted to manifest, if someone wanted to get an extra $1 million in their bank account, oftentimes make more money, it would be really cool if they could put $1 million in their bank account and start to feel what that actually feels like. It almost shifts your identity. You
Hmm.
might, or whatever amount of money. If you're living paycheck to paycheck, maybe just putting all of a sudden $50,000 lands in your bank account and you can actually try on, oh, gosh, I feel just a little more relaxed.
Yeah.
I'm actually maybe thinking about investing, or maybe I'm thinking about what I really want to do now that I've got off this hamster wheel of running and fighting. What I'm getting at is there's something about a GLP-1 that actually gives you that feeling of, oh, this is what it feels like. Maybe this is what my thin friend feels when she's not like eating food and thinking about there. Do you see what I'm getting
Yes.
at? Actually gives you that feeling that you can then actually create new habits around that work better. So there's
Mhm.
something unique about a peptide for that reason. It actually puts you in the metabolic and brain space of what someone who has an easier time with weight release would feel.
And wouldn't that just be fabulous for people who have never had that feeling of real satiety? I'm just full, I'm good, and I'm going to go about my day or my next 3 hours, whatever. But of course, is that insulin drives the cravings and the blood sugar. Yeah. There's been good news. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to insert one thing. The reason why most people are doing it wrong is because our doctors, unfortunately, I love doctors. I come from 4 generations of them. They're not taught nutrition in medical school. So you can't teach what you don't know. And if you have a hammer, all your nails. And so our very well-meaning doctors are the people come into them and they put them on a GLP-1 and they give them almost zero training on how to eat, how to
True.
move their bodies, how to rest. They're just like, take this drug and we'll dose you up until it doesn't work anymore. And then you'll be on it for life because we haven't fundamentally changed anything. So I have a big problem with that. So to your first question before, what can you do about it? You need to educate yourself
Hmm.
and figure out a way of eating that basically makes the peptide irrelevant.
Mm.
And then the peptide can come in at the smallest dose, maybe even a micro dose, and that means different things for different people. But the lowest minimum effective dose for you, and you and your doctor can get you there to the finish line, and it'll work much better. You can also get off of it.
Which many people don't think they can, or
Yeah,
they're afraid they're going to balloon back up to whatever
yeah,
weight they were before. Yeah, that's a really important piece. And also the exercise piece is for people that have never exercised. It, it's going to make a difference in their body. Muscle loss, we've all heard about that. That's one thing. But I'm just talking about the energy sustaining and building benefits of moving your body. And especially if you're on a program, I'm not just taking a drug, I'm now changing my lifestyle habits. You feel better when you exercise, even though it's hard for people to believe that who don't like exercise. But I think that also helps once you're off the drug, titrating down, whatever, it's going to help carry you through, right? Because now you have new habits. So I think that, like you said, doctors, because they don't know any better, aren't giving people all the tools they need to have this transition or this change in their life.
yeah.
So people like you and myself and podcasts luckily can reach a lot of people and make them aware of those things.
Yeah. It's not just exercise is important. It's if you're going to be on a GLP-1 peptide, you absolutely have to be doing strength training,
Right.
especially if you want to go on what are the more standard doses. You will lose a disproportionate amount of lean muscle mass, which is just absolutely dangerous.
Yeah.
And it could even impact your bone health. It's for people over 40. If they're going to take a GLP-1 and not be doing strength training, it's a terrible idea.
Yeah.
So if you have to take that, and there's plenty of information out there about how to do it. And like anything, the science of behavioral change, we all know we need to do certain things, but then if you're not doing them, just my best advice is just start slow and low. Sometimes just take the first step, go to a gym, get a membership, sit down, have a smoothie. Just go there. Maybe do that two different times of the time of day you're going to go and
Yeah.
just set the pattern and just start. Then maybe just take that free training session that they usually offer it in a
Yeah.
gym. Just have them show you a few things. If you can't afford a trainer, which obviously it's very expensive, find the three classes that meet your schedule and just go to one and maybe even commit to just staying for 10 minutes. It's okay to
Hmm.
walk out.
Yeah.
Just little slow and low. Build the behavior. Anchor the time, build up, and it works.
Yeah. I used to say, people would say, "Oh, I'm going to run a marathon." I'm like, "Do you have sneakers that are comfortable?" Like people forget, like they've got this architectural rendering of the finish line for the marathon, but none of the pre things. For my husband, who's not a fan of working out, we went and bought weights. And we went downstairs and I was like, this is this and this is this. I'm not that I'm a trainer, and I tell him that a million times. Don't start your weight training based on me, but I just wanted him. So he was like, oh, this is fun. And go on YouTube and find weight training for men, beginners. That was easy, right? Take the little computer downstairs and play the thing. So, like you said, but you have to start somewhere, and somewhere without all of those voices in your head going, I hate this, it's never going to work, it's never worked for me before. Those are the kind of things that usually come up, right? When we're embarking on something new, all of that negative chatter. But just override it with something else. Like it may never have worked before, but maybe this time it'll work.
Yeah. And sometimes just putting skin in the game, whatever that is, an accountability partner, a friend,
Hmm.
or putting some money in,
Yeah,
whatever
that
that
gym
is.
membership, even if it's $15 a month, it's something.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know a lot of gyms, but Planet Fitness, I think, is $15 a month.
Yeah. And it's an investment in your health. It's much more expensive to get sick.
Oh, yeah. I just was reading an article today about the cost of getting sick in your later decades, not just the cost on the economy, but the actual cost. And then the insurance rates are going up and et cetera, et cetera. So we want to stay healthy.
Yes.
Speaking of which, we have heard some good news about GLP-1s that are totally unrelated to weight loss, like
Yeah.
good for hearts,
Hmm.
maybe good for brains and Alzheimer's. What have you
Yeah.
heard?
Well, there's a lot of hopeful information. I think the experts will say we're still waiting for all the studies to come out to be conclusive.
Mm,
That said, it's all pointing in the right direction. I think if people are curious about what the long-term health benefits are, they can look to back to what we were saying before, the people that are non-diabetics, the people that prioritize protein, that keep their glucose in an optimal range often. And there's a company called Levels Health, which you can go on, and they have so much research on just
yeah,
this
they
way of
do.
eating, of managing your glucose, such improvements in, they're calling dementia and Alzheimer's diabetes 3. They're
Mm,
saying it's an advanced, just a metabolic disease that plays out. The same reasons why diabetics start to have fingers and legs amputated is because it constricts the blood vessels, corrodes them, and it does that to the brain. When you have balanced glucose levels, your brain functions better, you prevent all those things. Your heart runs better. A lot of diseases are metabolically rooted.
And if people listening have not been on my blog, Rebellious Wellness. What is it? Rebellious Wellness Lifestyle / blog. I've done at least 3 or 4 articles on CGMs and blood sugar management and why you want to manage all of that, because it's critical. It is, for me, it's one of the 5: sleep, manage your blood sugar, protein, fat, and move your body, right? Like there, it's very simple, but we complicate it like everything. in life.
We do. And
Yeah.
so what are these peptides, right? They help manage your glucose. So again, you
Yeah.
don't need to do that with the drug. You can do it on your own. Is it harder? Yes. Do we all want to just take a magic pill and have it do it for us? Sure, maybe that sounds better, but it is expensive. It also creates a lifelong dependency, and you haven't fundamentally worked at the root cause why you
Mhm.
got there in the first place.
Yeah, it might be the takeaway for me. You have to understand why you're here. Like in the mall, you are here. Why are you here between Ann Taylor and Levi's jeans? Because there's some emotional piece. Would you say always there's an emotional piece behind a body that isn't satisfying to the person who's in it?
Some people, and I think I was one of them, I think I grew up with my brother and her sister. My mom served us the same high sugar, high carbohydrate foods. I got fat, my brother and sister didn't. What was
Mhm.
happening there? I think there are just some people that inherently have a body that doesn't do well with the standard American diet, just
Mhm.
very high sugar, high carbohydrate diet. They're more, I can't necessarily break down all the biochemistry, but just common sense. I think there are some bodies that really have a harder time just eating the food that's out there. So they
Mhm.
have to work harder. And being heavier then does cause some trauma because there's a lot of fat shaming and it's
Yeah.
getting better. But you and I were even talking about, we started the podcast, your own mom was fat shaming you, and society does that. So then that
Yeah.
becomes trauma. And then there becomes like an emotional eating because you've been traumatized. And food can be addictive. Sugar lights up the same chemicals in the brain as like same areas of the brain as cocaine.
Yeah.
So there's a lot going on there. But yes, the emotional piece is real. And just like an alcoholic or a drug addict who has to figure out what to do if they used alcohol or drugs to soothe their emotions, if sugar was your drug of choice and you have to put that down or really minimize it, you're going to have to find new ways of dealing emotionally with your life when you get stressed out, when you want to soothe yourself, all those things.
Is in your research and you're working with patients, clients, is there any contraindication for a GLP-1? You may not have an answer. I'm just curious if there's any.
What I've observed working in medical environments, and all of the clients that I work with are working with their doctors, and I've interviewed doctors on these topics.
Yeah, I saw some on your Instagram feed.
I think the main contraindication, based on just the data that I've noted, is that if you are not willing to do strength training, if you have osteoporosis and osteopenia and you're have not very much muscle on you, going on a GLP-1 and just doing it the way even your doctor prescribes, hopefully they wouldn't prescribe it to you if
If you had those
what I
things.
just described. But
Yeah.
if you were to take it and you have those issues and you would don't start strength training, I think it could be very dangerous.
Yeah. Yeah, that piece keeps getting driven home about the strength training. And I think it's hard for us to imagine muscle loss being a sudden thing because we all know when you're 30, it starts to happen, then when you're 40. So it's this boiling the frog kind of thing. It doesn't, we don't feel anything. So I think it's then hard for some people to say, I'll start strength training even though I hate it because they told me that it's going to be rapid and it's going to be bad. There's no connection there. I don't know how we solve for that. There isn't really a solution. People just have to trust the experts who are saying it. Yeah.
Yeah, and back to using the good news about a GLP-1, if you're doing it correctly, is you can use it as a way to do the things that are going to be very health strengthening. So you could say, okay, you know what? I would like to figure out how to take the minimum effective dose. And just most likely you would have to find a compounding pharmacy, a reputable one. And there's plenty of those out there, by the way. They get a bad rap because big pharma doesn't want
Yeah.
anyone cutting in on their profits, period. That said, you do want a reputable one. And the only way you're going to be able to microdose or take a non-standard dose is you're going to have to use a compounding pharmacy with your physician. That said, if you want to go that route, you can get inspired and say, you know what? I'm willing to do all the right things. I'm willing to
Mm.
lose the first 5 to 10 pounds on my own, really track maybe with a CGM or an app like MyFitnessPal and really dial in my way of eating so that I know this is working. I know that I could do it on my own without the peptide. I'm going to do the strength training. I'm going to work on my sleep. I'm going to get my hormones looked at. I'm going to do all the things. I'm going to work on my trauma. I'm going to use this as a way to just reset my whole life. If you want to get inspired that way, that then it can be a wonderful just complement to that, keep
Hmm.
you on track, just
Hmm.
get you to the finish line. And you're left with all the good habits and behaviors. It
Yeah,
can be
yeah,
a wonderful way of doing it. But most people are not doing it that way.
right.
Now, that is the way I teach. So if people are interested in coming on over and getting more inspiration, they should check out my Instagram, my website, building a school. I've got a podcast and we talk all about it.
And your website is your name,
It
Elizabeth,
is Elizabeth McGann.
elizabethmcgann.com. That makes it very easy.
Yeah.
Something you just said. Oh, and not only are you left with all the good habits, your whole body gets benefited, not just you've lost some weight. It's the whole body is now going to work better. Your arteries, your brain function, your clarity of mind, all of these things improve when you do more than just rely on a medication. And again, I'm not shaming. I'm just saying, in addition to what Elizabeth said, all of the habits are important and
Yeah.
all of them benefit us in so many ways.
Yes. And I love what you just said about gut health. I didn't talk about that. So many people's guts are inflamed. They've got leaky gut. They've so much of our immune system is in our gut. And it's a big part of what I think a woman or a man needs to focus on, especially after 35, 40, 50, 60, as you're getting into your most wonderful years of your life. If you have never looked carefully at your gut health, you really need to do that. And there's so many resources out there, but everything works better when your gut is optimized.
Now, do you recommend a certain kind of testing for a gut health profile? Because some people won't know what's going on in their gut.
Yeah, if you go to a functional doctor or an integrative doctor or a people that specialize in gut health, nowadays you can go to ChatGPT and ask what are the best gut health tests. You could run some food sensitivity tests. I think you can look at your microbiome and sometimes just a standard eliminating the five standard irritants in the gut. Look at taking wheat and gluten out for a period of time and see if you notice anything improving. Corn often is an issue. Sometimes eggs are problematic. Dairy can be problematic. Soy. Those are the five ones that you could eliminate for a period of time and notice if you're bloating, if you're gas, if you're hives or irritation or any inflammation that you're experiencing. You can do your own kind of experiment without any testing.
Yeah,
And
true.
if you start to feel better when one is eliminated, keep it out for 3 to 6 months and just keep going. There's
Hmm.
a lot of resources out there about improving your gut health.
The microbiome is like a thing. It's popular.
It's a thing because it's real. Every system of our body is informed by what's happening in our gut, and a happy gut, happy body. I'm a big fan of probiotic rich fermented foods
Yeah, yeah.
and bone broth.
This whole I have been making bone broth since I don't know what, like whenever I roast a chicken, I save the carcass.
Yeah,
And eventually I have three of them, like today, and I put them in a pot with some onions and carrots, and then I strain it off. I got bone broth. Right?
yeah,
That's basically all bone broth is
yeah.
chicken soup without
Yeah,
the
it is
stuff.
with the noodles, high in carbohydrates, but it's got the glutamine, it's got the protein, it's got the collagen and the gelatin,
Yeah,
and it goes into the gut. A tip is drinking it on an empty stomach, and it helps heal and seal some of the micro tears in the gut. Makes everything work a little better.
yeah,
Plus, it's a little bit of protein, it's filling.
yeah.
It's a nice bonus
I
thing
like
to
it
add.
in the morning in the winter
Yeah.
sometimes. I'll chop up some vegetables and just throw them in there and have some broth for breakfast.
Yeah.
Sounds
Hot
yummy.
tip. You
There you
heard it
go. Hot tip from an old chef.
here.
All right, Elizabeth, what do you want to tell people that I didn't ask you about? What do you want to leave people with?
That it's never been a better time to be healthy. It's never been a better time if you've got a little excess weight and it's something you want to release for your health. It's never been a better time to get to a healthy weight, a happy weight, and just to make sure that you use it as an opportunity to really step into your healthiest and best life.
I like that. And I want to remind the listeners, your podcast really is not only fun, but super informative. It's not number one on the charts for no reason. And with millions of podcasts out there, I like to give people direction to help them sort and sift so they don't waste their time. ElizabethMcGann.com. You can get to Instagram, who also your name on Instagram. But there are links on your website, I think, a link down at the bottom.
Yeah, and if people go to the Holistic GLP-1 podcast with Elizabeth McGann on Apple, you'll see in our show notes there's a link to a free masterclass. It's called
Oh,
Freedom from Food Noise, and it's a free 15-minute video that just takes them through the best practices of some of the things we talked about.
oh, that's great. I'll put it in the show notes too, where to find that. And if you have questions, people, send them on over to Gregory at rebelliouswellnesslifestyle.com. This has been fun. You gave a lot of great information, and I thank you again for being with me.
Oh, Greg, it's so much fun. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Be well till next week, peeps. I'll be back with another fabulous guest then.